everybody, and welcome back to another important video in this web development series. And I say important because in this video, we're going to talk about media queries. And this is something that's actually really important for the responsiveness of your website and verifying that it's going to look good on different screen sizes. So what I mean by responsiveness, let me just show you. If I come to the W3 Schools website, if I pull this all the way across, you can see their menu. They've got Get Certified, Spaces, Jobs, and then a whole bunch of different menu items. And if I shrink the size of this, you can see as it shrinks, Jobs disappears, and then Spaces disappears, and then Get Certified disappears, and then finally, different menu items keep disappearing the smaller you get until eventually all you're left with is a drop-down menu. And basically what this does is their menu works and looks good on any size device that you can find, which is definitely what you want. And the way that you do that is using something called media queries. So if we come back into my code here, let's go ahead and just generate a boilerplate template here, and we can say media queries. And then down here, I'm going to go ahead and make one div, and we can just call this our menu. Now inside of this div, let's go ahead and add some menu items in here. So menu underscore item asterisk 5, and go ahead and hit enter on that. Now you see we have 5 menu items in here. Before we jump over to the CSS, we can go ahead and link our CSS and then jump into that style.css. And in here, we could say our menu is going to be, let's give that a height of maybe 150 pixels. And then let's give that a background color of black. Now, let's come down into our menu items. So dot menu item. Whoops, I think I did menu underscore item. So dot menu underscore item. And then in here, we can say our height on these is going to be 75 pixels, and let's make the width also 75 pixels. And then after that, let's go ahead and give it a background color of white. And finally, one more thing up here, let's go ahead and set our display to flex, and then our justify, we can do justify content, and we'll go ahead and do space between. Now, if I save that and save our index.html as well, you can see now I've got my black box and I have my, this almost looks like piano keys here. Let's go ahead and do align items as well. We could say align items in the center, and instead of space between, let's actually do space evenly. And now if I save that, you can see I've got my black box and then I have 5 white boxes inside of there. And as I expand this, let me just resize that a little bit. As I expand this in and out, you can see my keys don't resize at all. But there comes a point when now they're overlapping with each other and it doesn't look good. They all kind of blend together. Let's pretend that these are menu items and I want to actually get rid of them when they get smaller. What I can do in here is I can put a trigger point in my code, maybe right around here at 420 pixels. To do that, we can come down here and add an @media tag. We can say @media only screen and then inside the parentheses here, if I say max width is equal to 420 pixels, well now this means that essentially whatever styles we put inside of this block are only going to be applied for a max width up to 420 pixels, meaning anything less than 420 pixels is going to get this, but anything above 420 pixels is not going to get this. So what do I need to do? Well, we could say dot menu item, and then here, if I just go ahead and open up the brackets and I say display none, and then save that, Well, now you can see if I'm bigger, I see them all, and as I get smaller, they all disappear right there, right when I cross that 420 threshold. Now, that's not quite what we want because we want each of these to disappear individually. So to achieve that, we really need to come in here and give all of these their own unique identifier, because right now we don't have a unique identifier. We have a shared identifier across all 5 of them. So I can come in here and I can say ID is equal to, and then in here we'll just say item 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so now we've got 5 different items in here. If I go ahead and save that and come here, if I say instead of menu item here, we use an ID selector, and if we say item 5 and I do display none, if I save that now, as I cross that 420 threshold again, you see that 5th item disappears and we only have 4 left now. Now, another thing I'll just remind you, we're using display none. We are not using, and let me just demonstrate here, we are not using visibility hidden. And the reason for that is if I use visibility hidden and I decrease it, it disappears, but it still leaves the space for all of that. So I definitely don't want that because now my menu is still crammed and our media query isn't accomplishing what we want it to. So for this use case, we definitely want to use display none and not visibility hidden. And let's go ahead and work on all of the other ones. So now we would probably want the 3rd one to disappear right about 329, we'll say 330 pixels. So to do that, again, I can come down here and write the same type of thing. I can say at media only screen, and we can say max width is 330 pixels. And then inside of here, we can say, using that ID selector, we can say item 4, and then in here, display none. Save that, and now you see that 3rd one has disappeared. And then when we get to about, we'll just call it 250 pixels, we can go ahead and get rid of the next one. We can say at media only screen, and max width is equal to 250 pixels. Then we can say, using our, again, ID selector, item 3, and then inside of there, display is none. So now if I save that, you can see as I cross that threshold, I'm getting now only 2 elements showing up. And eventually, once we cross about 180 pixels, we're only going to want to have 1. So we can say at media screen, or sorry, at media only screen, and max width is about, what did I just say? About 180 pixels. Well, then we're going to want to do item 2, and then display is set to none. So if I save that, now we're down to 1. So now you see we have that same effect that we saw on that on this W3 Schools website. When you expand it, their menu items appear, and when you decrease the size again, the menu items disappear. And we have the same thing happening here, and that is all accomplished using our media queries here. And the display property is not the only property you can change. Obviously, you can change any property you want here, and you don't have to use max width. Another very common one that people use is the minimum width. So if I say at media only screen, and then in here, we could say min width, and then maybe I'll put, I don't know, 480 pixels. And then inside of here, I can change the color of anything. I can change the border of anything. I can change really any property that I have in CSS. I can change and adjust using a media query that's going to query the size of the screen. So if now I say dot menu item, And inside of here, instead of having a background color white, maybe at this point we want the background color to be, I don't know, aquamarine. Now, as I cross that 480 threshold, you can see, or sorry, 580 is what I wrote. As I cross that 580 threshold, you can see that our background color on our boxes now changes from white to aquamarine. So this, you can use these media queries to adjust any CSS property that you want as the screen sizes are changing, and that way you can display the same website in ways that make sense and look good on different devices. So if you want to have a side menu pop up on a large computer device, but you need that to disappear on a tablet or a phone, then media queries are definitely a good way to do that. And as you're deciding essentially what threshold to use for your media queries, you could come into Chrome, for example, and inside of here, you can look at their different drop down. You can check, well, okay, well, the iPhone SE is 375. The iPhone 12 is 390. The Samsung Galaxy S20 Ultra, well, that one's 412. And you can kind of go through all of these and try to come up with what you think would be reasonable for tablet displays and phone displays and all of that. But really, I'll just go ahead and paste it in here and then tell you. So generally, your smartphones are going to run screens up to about 480 pixels. And I know obviously this is changing a little bit depending on the year because phones tend to be, trending to get bigger. So we'll see how that goes, how that trend continues. But right now, about 480 pixels. And then right here, 481 to 767 pixels, that's usually kind of your big, smarter phones like your Samsung Ultras and any other big phones that they have, but still not quite big enough for a tablet. The screen sizes are going to be roughly in this range from 768 or so to about 991. And then larger tablets, 992 to 1199. And then finally, your laptops are going to start just around here, which is going to be 1200 to around 1439. Then down here, we're going to have just kind of 1440 to 1919. Well, that's going to be like a medium-sized computer monitor. And then finally, anything above 1920, that's going to be considered a large computer monitor. So this isn't like a hard and fast rule or anything, but this is generally about the size that screens run. So take that with a grain of salt. And hopefully you learned quite a bit in this lecture about media queries and how we can use them to adjust our displays on our screen so that our websites are responsive and they can look good on really any device that we prepare it for. So as always, leave a comment down below, giving us any feedback, asking any questions you have or comments that you have. Like this video and then subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any future content that we're going to continue putting out. And we'll see you all in the next video.